know we must learn to stand together, learn to live together, learn it's not forever. I know, let's see if we can let the people know. I know you can't hurt the one you've got.
All right. Welcome to The Middle. I am your host, Ronnie Wright. I will be at the helm. Down in the engine room, the Scotty to my Captain Kirk. We have Ryan behind the controls, producing and playing with knobs. Here on The Middle, we're going to have plenty to talk about from the perspective that everybody's wrong. No one has a fucking clue to what they're talking about. And the world would be a much better place if the apes took over. So whether you believe that organized religion is the greatest scam ever perpetrated on humankind, or whether you believe that Adam and Eve rode dinosaurs to Sunday school, we've got something for everybody. You can join the conversation before, during, or after the show by following us on Twitter at Hey Ronnie Wright. You can email us directly on Gmail, heyronnywright@gmail.com. You can always follow us on the Harold Broadcasting Services website, haroldbroadcasting.com, and watch replays of The Middle on the Harold Broadcasting YouTube channel. All right, so let's get to the middle of this fucker. Lots going on this week, but I'm going to talk about what happened to me last week, right here on Harold Broadcasting. I was a guest on another program, and we had a couple other guys in the room. I was on Mission Accomplished, which you can check out on the Harold Broadcasting. A couple of guys that were in the room that were very much Trump heads, you know, very rah-rah Trump guys. And, you know, Donald Trump's presidency is probably one of the worst things that ever happened to America. And not because his policies are fucked up or, you know, because he lies and then he lies about the lie he just lied about 30 seconds ago as if, you know, 80 cameras weren't on him and we could all press rewind and watch his lie again. But the real reason that his presidency is just one of the worst things that ever happened is that the Trump presidency emboldens complete fucking morons. And you know, when I was a kid, complete fucking morons knew that they were dumb, and they kept their mouths shut. You know, they didn't want to open their mouth and prove what a complete fucking moron they are. But today, complete fucking morons, emboldened by Trump being president, suddenly have an opinion. I mean, they have an opinion on foreign diplomacy and international trade agreements. Well, what the fuck is going on? I mean, the two guys that were here last week, I had one of them was, I don't know, he's from one of the countries I buy drugs from, some shithole in Central America or South America or something like that. One of the people that are in the caravan that are coming to break through our border because there's no wall there. One of those countries. And the other guy was from bumfuck somewhere and who proudly told me he had a 90 IQ. Now, 90 IQ with the political opinion. When I was younger, 90 IQ meant you had a helmet and you rode on the short bus. It certainly didn't give you a license to talk about politics. But there I was, sitting at this very table with these two guys, literally repeating back to me what they had seen on Fox and Friends. Sound like somebody you know? Repeating exactly what they heard on Fox and Friends. So while I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, if I engage in any kind of a debate, I'm engaging with fucking morons. So, I mean, that basically puts me in that category. And by the way, I think that is the technical term. I didn't go to med school, but I know that they have like different terms for IQ levels. And I think, like 70, you're like pretty much like in a coma. And then 90, I think complete fucking moron is the technical term. I might be wrong, but you can Google that. But so I thought to myself, man, if I sit here and I engage with these guys, I'm going to be a complete fucking moron for even engaging with them. So for the most part, I kept it low key and I tried to keep it light because, it wasn't my show, but this is my show. Now I'm on my show. So I've taken down my drawers and I'm about to take a shit on these two guys that I felt I didn't want to do on somebody else's program. And so the two things that they talked about were that Hillary Clinton is the one who's colluded with Russia because she sold uranium to Russia. I mean, and that's just one of those, that's like the Pizzagate stuff. It's just one of those conspiracies. It's like Obama not being born in Kenya and all that kind of stuff. It's just one of those ridiculous things. You know, the Secretary of State of the United States doesn't have the ability to sell uranium. That's not on their to-do list. That's not part of Hillary Clinton's resume. Nobody in the U.S. government sells uranium directly to Russia. Not to mention the fact that the company that they're talking about, because everybody knows the name of the company, Uranium One. So because that's the name of the conspiracy theory, Uranium One. So Uranium One is actually a Canadian company. So how does the American Secretary of State sell uranium from a Canadian company to Russia? But anyway, in the show notes, I put a link to some of that information, so you can at least, if you watched last week and you feel dumber for having heard that theory, you can readjust your brain. And then, of course, the other thing was that, I said that no matter what Trump decides or says, that we'll know about it in 30 seconds because it's the leakiest White House ever. And they claimed that that was because Obama's people. So I started to explain, and then I caught myself. Because it's, when a president takes office, the entire executive branch is staffed by the president. So all the people that work in the White House and everybody that's in his administration, he picks for himself. They don't need congressional approval or any of those kinds of things. He just picks. Mostly what guys do is they take the people that help them win, people from their campaign, and they put them in some kind of corresponding spot in the White House. It's not really difficult to understand. But in case it is, I put a link into my show notes. You can catch that on howardbroadcasting.com. Or on the replay of this on YouTube. You'll see the show notes below. You can click on the link there. It's literally from the White House website showing you how the administration staffs its different departments. Just in case you like facts. So really, what that brought me to was the false equivalency arguments. Before I get to that, let me just mention that these guys were very proud they voted for Trump. They think he's done more than any other president. In like 15 months, he's done more than any other president. I mean, I'm just off the top of my head, I'm going to say, I don't know, Abraham Lincoln, saved the country from splitting in two. So there's one thing. George Washington, he led an army that basically told the King of England to go fuck himself. So, I mean, that might have been something comparable to, tax reform. And, FDR, he got us out of the Great Depression, gave us Social Security, and beat Hitler. So, I mean, there have been presidents who have done some things besides, tweet. I'm just saying. So what it brought me to was the false equivalency argument. And some of you are probably familiar with this, maybe not familiar with that exact term, but the false equivalency argument is basically, to put it simply, experts versus morons. And look, I'm not claiming to be a super genius, but politics is my background. I have a degree in political science. I've been a leader in political parties. I've worked on campaigns. I've run for public office. I've been a political appointee on various committees and boards. So I kind of, I know what I'm talking about. I've got a little, some bona fides. And, one guy, like I said, was, I don't know, from a foreign country, and the other guy had a 90 IQ. So the false equivalency argument is basically, well, let me give it to you in a story. So a young boy is just absolutely overwhelmed with the joy that science brings him, and he loves science. And he goes to high school. He goes away to science camp when he's in junior high, and high school he takes all the AP chemistry and all these different classes, and he really gets into climate science. And he goes to college and he gets a degree, and then he goes and he gets his master's, and he gets his PhD in climatology. And he goes out there and he works for these different organizations, maybe NOAA, maybe NASA, and he goes to the North Pole, he goes to the South Pole, he writes books on the subject, and he is, a veritable, he is an expert in his field. And then that same person goes on to, let's say, I don't know, Fox News, and they put his floating head in a box next to a floating head of some other guy who works for some organization that's funded by, I don't know, the Koch brothers. He's got no background in climatology. He's not a doctor. He's not a scientist, but he just doesn't believe that climate change is real. And because both of their heads are floating next to each other on Fox News and you're watching it on TV, they become equal. They're equivalent to each other. But they're not really equivalent to each other. One is an expert who spent a lifetime in science, and one is somebody who's getting paid to pretend to be an expert on TV to convince you that climate change isn't real, and the oil companies say so because regulation on them is bad and they're paying me. So there you go. So those false equivalency arguments are the worst thing in the world. And I almost let myself be drawn into one last week on Mission Accomplished. And I won't let that happen. One of the most famous false equivalency arguments was Bill Nye the Science Guy. This was kind of a famous one. There's a guy named Ken Ham, which is just a fucking great name for what he does. He is a bullshitter. I don't know if he has a degree in it, but he is definitely a bullshitter. And he runs that creationist museum in, I don't know, one of those states where like I said earlier, where like they teach Adam and Eve rode dinosaurs to Sunday school. So I don't know, Kentucky, West Virginia, someplace shitty like that. And he's the guy who built the Ark. Did you see this? He built it. It was like for I guess a theme park. I mean, you could tell the guy's a bullshitter because Jesus walked around in like shredded, shitty clothes and like sandals falling off his feet, and lived on the charity of others because he was the Messiah. And then these assholes drive around in limousines. They have fucking mansions and they build theme parks. Free admission? Not a chance. Not a fucking chance. So he literally raised money by debating Bill Nye, an actual scientist. And I'm going to say an actual scientist. This is the crazy climate deniers, creationists, right-wing conspiracy theorists. Their big thing with Bill Nye, the science guy, is that he's not a scientist. He has a degree in mechanical engineering. Who else does not have a doctorate that we would consider a scientist? Guy from New Jersey. Has over 2,000 patents. Named Thomas Edison. Right. He was self-taught. He didn't even have a college degree. I don't even think he had a high school diploma. One of the greatest inventors and without a doubt, a fucking scientist. Ever heard of Nikola Tesla? Right. Every conspiracy nut out there will use Nikola Tesla's name when they're talking about things, but they will shit on Bill Nye because Nikola Tesla didn't have a fucking degree either. He went to college and he dropped out. He was a college dropout. So stop it. Bill Nye has a degree, mechanical engineering. He is a scientist. He is literally Bill Nye, the science guy. So they put these two on a stage together. And I think they did it, of course, from the Creationist Museum, I think, because this guy was trying to raise money so he can complete his ark. I mean, God just told Noah to build the fucking ark. Noah didn't ask him for, reimbursement. I'm just saying. So they sat up there, and I thought, Bill Nye was crazy to ever even give this guy that kind of publicity, because who the fuck is, Ken Ham? Now, of course, Ken Ham is the guy who debated Bill Nye. So he's got his little bona fides with his crazy people in his corner. So, Bill Nye spoke about the formation of the universe from the Big Bang till now, including the evolution of the species from single-cell organisms to humans and beyond. And, he used science, facts. And Ken Ham was, with all his degrees in research, he said, well, I don't believe it. That was his rebuttal. The earth is only 6,000 years old. And that's because the Bible is the literal word of God, according to Ken Ham and his people. And so, even though we can show processes that take lots longer than 6,000 years have taken place on Earth, and that the Earth they have literally rocks and other elements that can be tested and dated that go back, millions of years. But this knucklehead, just doesn't believe it. And because they were standing on a stage next to each other, and because they took turns with a moderator giving them questions, it made them seem like they were equivalent to each other. And they weren't equivalent to each other. One guy was using facts, and the other guy was saying, well, I don't believe it. It's like, 2 times 2 equals 4. Well, I don't believe that. God says it's 6, and, I believe in the literal word of God, so 6 it is. No matter how many ways you want to show me facts. I do not believe it. I mean, he believes the Earth is 6,000 years old. This is what they call a young earther. That's what Ken Ham proudly calls himself, a young earther. He believes the Earth is 6,000 years old. God created everything because the Bible is literally the word of God. Literally, God created the Earth in 6 days. Now, Donald Trump probably would have said 6 days. If he had hired me, we could have built it in 4 or 5 days tops. And it would have been beautiful. The most beautiful, yeah, exactly. And then he would have had Mexico pay for it after he created Mexico. Believe me. Or, he would have said something equally stupid. And this is one of the slippery slopes that, unfortunately, in today's 24-hour news cycle, people with real credentials and real experience in their life have to sit and be compared with these nonsensical assholes who have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Don't put any time into learning what the topic is that they're speaking about. They can just get away with saying, yeah, I don't believe that. I wish I could have done that in high school. It would have made things a lot fucking easier. If the teacher would have said, hey, you know what? You flunked that test. Yeah, you got a 40. And I said, you know what? I don't believe that. God told me I got a 90. And hey, speaking of 90, by the way, I think when the guy was telling me that he had a 90 IQ, I don't know if he was laughing at himself or if he was like thinking because like 100 is like perfect on a test that 90 was really good for an IQ. I have no idea. I don't know if he knows what the scale is. I'm sure he thinks his credit is good because it's 400. But yeah. So anyway, that is my false equivalency argument. It is absolutely experts versus morons. And don't let it happen to you. I didn't let it happen to me. Thank fucking God. All right, so we're going to move on to our segment called Asshole of the Week. We do have an Asshole of the Week. And we also have our very first sponsor here at the middle. Our sponsor is Shove It Up Your Ass Suppositories. These are suppositories without instructions. You just shove it up your ass. Shove It Up Your Ass Suppositories come in unique designs so you can enjoy putting assholes in your asshole. They have the Kim Jong-un, the Vladimir Putin, and of course, the Donald Trump. And for the conservatives out there, they offer all new designs of their suppositories. They offer the Barack Obama, the Hillary Clinton, and the John McCain, because Trump likes war heroes that don't get captured. Shove it up your ass suppositories for when you're completely full of shit. So this week, our asshole of the week goes to Mick Mulvaney. You see old Mick right there giving the double asshole sign. That is not gang signs. That is I am an asshole twice over. This week, Mick Mulvaney, the head of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I think he also doubles as the head of the Office of Management and Budget. Hardest working man in asshole business. In a speech to banking executives on Tuesday, he said, quote, "What you do here matters." And I'm thinking he was in Washington, D.C., so I think he meant Washington, D.C., or maybe he just meant at the Hilton, conference room where he was giving the speech. "What you do here matters. We had a hierarchy in my office in Congress," when he was a congressman. "If you were a lobbyist who never gave us money, I didn't talk to you. If you were a lobbyist who gave us money, I might talk to you. If you came from back home and sat in my lobby, I talked to you without exception, regardless of the financial contributions." Well, isn't that fucking very white of him? So let me break that down for you. So basically he's saying, if you were a constituent from home, I would always talk to you because, I'm a man of the people, the guy who's getting paid, probably 50 G's to sit in a room full of bankers right now and tell you all my campaign fundraising secrets. So if you came to my office and I saw you still had, a little bit of hay in your hair, because you're a tumbleweed from back home in the district, then, I would always talk to you because I'm a man of the people. Now, if you were a lobbyist, if you didn't cut a check to me, there wasn't a fucking chance I was ever going to talk to you. But if you cut a check, but if you gave me money, you're in. I mean, understand, just in normal everyday life, a former member of Congress saying something like that is, that's not really that shocking that they're admitting to, hey, we're fucking dirty, we're filthy, lobbyists completely own us, we're in their pockets. Yeah, I would totally talk to you if you showed up in my office, but I would never actually do anything for you unless you cut me a check. That would not be shocking to hear. But this guy's still in government. And not only is he in government, he's in the executive branch, means he's from the White House. And not only is he from the White House, he's from the White House with the president who claimed he was going to, he had his rally yesterday, drain the swamp. So he's going to drain the swamp, and then he's got this asshole who's got not one, but two jobs in the swamp. I wonder if he gets paid one salary. 2 jobs in the swamp, coming out to a room full of the swampiest swampy people you can swamp with, which is fucking bankers, and telling them, back in the day when I was a congressman, you had to cut money, you had to cut a check if you wanted to influence my votes going forward. What a fucking asshole. What a fucking asshole. So Mick Mulvaney is our asshole of the week. We thank you, Mick. May I suggest trying some shove it up your ass suppositories? Or if you don't have a suppository handy, just shove whatever's handy up your ass, you fucking jerk off. All right, so last Sunday was Earth Day. Did you do anything? You know what the president did? He planted a tree with the president from France, Macron. After he made out with him and held his hand for the weekend. It would be really cool if we saw him holding hands and kissing Melania, his fucking wife, as much as he was hugging, kissing, and holding hands with the French president. It was absolutely insane. But they planted a tree, so that was really nice. So I'm sure the president was just like, I don't know, is this like a French thing? No, you fucking douchebag. It is Earth Day. So on Earth Day, April 22nd was last Sunday, and April 22nd was a date that was actually the official date made by proclamation in April of 1970. The federal proclamation was made by U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson. Not enough Gaylords anymore. That name has started to slip away If your wife is pregnant right now, put that in the mix. Let's get some Gaylords back in the mix here.
I don't want to be a Gaylord, but 5-minute warning.
5-minute warning. So the first Earth Day was held, unbeknownst to Nelson, April 22nd, 1970, was coincidentally the 100th anniversary of the birth of Vladimir Lenin. So the Time magazine reported that some suspected the date was not a coincidence, but a clue that the event was a, quote, communist trick, and quoted a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution as saying, quote, subversive elements plan to make American children live in an environment that is good for them. That was what they were afraid of, that the environment was going to be good for children. That's fucking awesome. If I found out who that member of the Daughters of the American Revolution was, I would give them asshole of the week. All right, so we have come to our 5-minute warning. That means I'm going to do my close. To this week, we are going to talk about the nature of things. So everything in our universe, including people, is guided, constrained, and even compelled to act according to its nature. A bird flies, fish swim, insects crawl. So what is the nature of our president? There are many things we know about Donald Trump. He spent his life in the spotlight of his own accord. He's been in newspapers, magazines, radio, television, and film for decades. He's written books. Well, he's had books written for him with his name on them. I guess that's what he does with buildings as well, and his board game. But he has run beauty pageants, casinos, hotels, and even his own television reality show, and he may or may not like to pay hookers to pee on hotel beds. I mean, let's be honest, who doesn't? The Trump Organization is a collective of over 500 companies owned and operated by Donald Trump and his family, with him as the sole owner. He has no corporate board of directors and no partners. Donald Trump has always worked for his family business, which was founded by his grandmother in 1923 as Elizabeth Trump and Son. Today, Donald Trump employs his sons Eric and Don Jr., his daughter Ivanka, allegedly a host of Russian hackers, various other family members, but no more Omarosa. Sad. In all his 71 years of life, Donald Trump has always looked out for him and his. So what would make a man who has only ever worked for, protected, and promoted his own interests and that of his family suddenly become interested in public service? I mean, besides the free golf trips every weekend, are the hookers that much better in politics? Just what is Donald Trump's nature? So there's a great allegory about the nature of things been told for many years in slightly different ways, and it goes like this. A scorpion is on a journey. That scorpion traveled very far, but finally comes to a river he must get across. He approaches a frog, and he asks the frog if he'll carry him across the river. The frog looks skeptical and says to the scorpion, well, how do I know you won't sting me once we're in the river? The scorpion replies, well, that would be crazy. If I were to sting you in the river, then we would both surely drown. Well, the frog sees the truth in that, and he agrees to give the scorpion a ride. Midway across the river, the scorpion does sting the frog, who looks at the scorpion on his back and says, now we'll both surely drown. Why did you sting me? To which the scorpion replies, well, I'm a scorpion. It's in my nature to do so. Donald Trump spent all his life with only one interest, Donald Trump. He's a master self-promoter. He's a manipulator of facts that best suit that self-interest. Do I believe that Trump's trying to destroy America? Of course not. Do I believe he is evil or somehow deranged or unhinged? Maybe. I don't know. But what I truly don't believe is that after 71 years, a man only interested in his own success suddenly cares very deeply about serving the public in some altruistic fashion. It is much more likely that the presidency is just one more tool that Donald Trump will use to leverage his own interests and that of his family. If, during that process, he destroys the institutions of our democracy, tears down the fabric of morality and decency, and leaves America weak and drowning in the middle of a river, I know he can live with it. How do I know that? Because he is Donald Trump, and it is in his nature to do so. That is all we have for the middle this week. I want to thank you all for joining us. My thanks to Ryan behind the controls there and everybody here at Howard Broadcasting Services. We will catch you next week. Until then, see ya.
I know to you straight, you're out of suicide.